Good evening, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Uh, Thank you for joining me. I have some news to share with you. So, I got some issue with voicing, so I apologize. Thank you again. Today is December 18, 2021. I will start with a tragedy happened in Oromia. You know, Oromia is under Abiy Ahmed and Shimalis Abdisa and under this Prosperity Party leadership, they adopted shoot to kill policy without any accountability. So this thing is keep happening uh, in Oromia, also in other areas at this time in Tigray too. So uh, they are, just conducting this brutal assassination, mass killings in Oromia every day or every other day or every other month. This is a common news now, and nobody is accounted for, and nobody can do anything. The global community is silent, especially on the situation happening in Oromia, the killing. Uh, so I have, you know, reported the Karrayyuu killing, Karrayyuu Abagada's senior leadership, Hussein Abdul Jabbar Hussein, the lawyer, Hachalu Hundesa, Emmanuel Wondimu. It's the list. The list keep adding up, and now yesterday, these Prosperity Party security officers killed four youths in Nekamt. So I have the names, and I will share Kelo Media short uh, video, like commemorating the killing of these innocent youths. So it's a very tragic, very bad, and Oromos are powerless. The global community is powerless. Nobody can stop Abiy Ahmed or Shimalis Abdisa or those Prosperity Party. Nobody can make them accountable for law. They just take anybody. They can arrest anybody. They can kill anybody without any accountability. And they don't want anyone to be accountable. That's why you heard when the Ethiopian government fight against the investigation which might be conducted in the future by United Nations Human Rights Council. They fought it very badly, but they lost. They lost. So hopefully one day accountability will come. Let's read these names. Uh, Four Oromo youths were taken out of prison cells and executed in Naqamt by Ethiopian security forces on December 17, 2021. Their names are Abu Bakr Noure, uh, Nimona Ijigu. The third one, Amanuel Haptamu. And the fourth one is Robson, but the father name is not given. And these are the four youths taken from the prison cells and openly assassinated in Nakamt yesterday, and even prevented their families and the friends to take the bodies and have proper burial service. So is I never seen Ethiopian government doing this thing. I heard about Derg regime a little bit. You pay for the dead body, but this one looks like worse than that. The killings are mounting, and nobody is accounted for. Nobody, no accountability at all. So it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy continues in Oromia, unless the Oromos in uh, in especially in back home, Unless they wake up and do something, this will continue. I know the diaspora community, they are doing everything they can, demonstrating, fundraising, and they are doing, but still it's not ending the tragedy we are facing in Ethiopia, in Oromia, under Abiy Ahmed leadership. Let's listen, a little bit uh, from Kello Media about this killing, the names and the picture of those used, and then I'll continue to the other news. These are the pictures and the names. Okay, so that's like thanks to Kello Media for taking the time to remember and to speak on behalf of those dead, killed, massacred Oromos. So, uh, you know, we need the international community, to help us to pay attention what is happening in Oromia. It's ignored, totally ignored. Uh, so we need urgent action in Oromia to stop these killers, to stop, those massacres conducted against the future generation in that region. So the global community is doing everything in Tigray region, voicing concern in other areas, but much is also needed in Oromia region. Okay, so let me continue. Is another report on the tragedy on Karrayyuu leadership by Addis Standard. It's a extensive report about that killing, that 14 Karrayyuu leaders. That's a massacre. So let's read what the Addis Standard has. Abagada Union says missing members of Karrayyuu Gada leadership dead, dozens under custody. The remaining people who were said to have gone missing after the contradicting report surrounding the killings of 14 members of the Karrayyuu Gada leadership were found in a detention center in Mojo, reports said. The secrecy of Abagada Union and Abagada of the Tulama Governor Hola confirmed to Addis Standard that the remaining members of the Karrayyuu Gada leadership are detained in Mojo and that one of them died. Residents of Fentalle Warada spoke of tension running high as the crackdown on the community escalated over the days following the killings and abduction of the Gada leadership. In Addis Standard Elder report, An eyewitness said that government forces abducted a total of 14 men, including Abba Gadas, Abba Boku, prominent community members, and a young man from the seat of the Gada leadership, Kara, where a prayer ceremony, Waka, Waka Kada, was taking place on Wednesday, December 1, 2021. The Oromia regional government, however, refuted the allegation and blamed the attacks on Shane, a term the government officials to refer to Oromo Liberation Army, OLA. The Oromo Liberation Army, on its part, issued a statement attributing the attacks to the government forces. Gada Hawas Boru, the brother of the late Karrayyuu Abagada Kadir Hawas Boru, expressed dismay in the attack of the leaders. He detailed that the Karrayyuu community, including Abagadas, were harassed by the government bodies. He didn't specify by name for allegedly supporting armed rebels and failing to mobilize support for the government. Gada speculates that the onslaught was a retributive measure taken by government forces in response to an earlier incident in Haro Kersa Kabale, where a standoff between police and the community resulted in the injury of members of the government security forces. Resorting to pointing fingers after the killing of these many people is a failure in politics and punishable in the face of God, he said. Abba Gada Gobana, who told Addis Standard that the union was closely following the killing of the Karrayyuu Abagadas, divulged that the remaining leaders are under the custody of government forces. We strongly condemn the killing of Karrayyuu Abagadas. The leaders were attacked at a sacred place of worship. Abagadas convey God's message, he continued. We reject the government report surrounding the killings. We demand a clear investigation. He also recalled a meeting the Abagada Union held in Adama with officials from the Oromia regional government, including the Deputy President of Oromia Regional State, Awalu Abdo, and officials from the Oromia Tourism Bureau, where the union condemned the killing of Karrayyuu Abagadas. There are contradicting reports coming out, preventing the union from identifying the perpetrators, while different parties trading blames, he said. Roba, who wanted to go by his first name for fear of reprisal, put the number of detainees at 23, including one of the captives who was beaten to death on Wednesday, December 8, 2021. The body of Jilo Borayu Hawas was recovered 2 days later by a group of elders who went to Mojo after receiving tips that the missing leaders were held there, according to Roba. While explaining the condition of the detainees leaders, he said, they were beaten severely and sustained serious injuries while being interrogated to reveal the whereabouts of OLA members. Moreover, Robert discussed the dire situation that the Karrayyuu community is in. He stated that movement has been restricted since the killing of the Abagadas on December 1, discounting market activities and preventing the pastoral community from traveling in search of water and cattle feed. The people have been subjected to harassment and indiscriminate mass imprisonment. Whoever is spotting in urban area to seek health care or buy goods is beaten and taken to jail, while putting the number as high as 200 people, including women and the elderly. Roba described the condition of their detention. It is impossible to visit or bring food to the detainees. A lot of people don't know whether their loved ones are dead or alive. It's a tragedy. Yes, it's a very tragic. When asked if the OLA operates in those areas, Roba said, the government claims that the OLA operates in these areas, although we haven't seen the evidence. Gada shares similar views and insists that claims of armed group operations in the harsh, arid area is implausible. The Karrayyuu community is neither on the government side nor the OLA, Gada said, adding, the murder of the Abagadas is similar to that of Hachalu Hundessa. Roba explained that the group of elders were promised by elements in the Oromia regional government that the detained leaders were set to be released on Thursday, December 16. He put forward his guesses that higher rank of the regional government is unaware of what is happening to the community on the zonal level. Corroborating the statement of the head of Abagada Union, Roba said, regional officials, including the Deputy President of Oromia, Awalu Abdo, intervened and communicated with the elderly to facilitate reconciliation between the community and themselves. Roba concluded his testimony by underlining the need for withdrawal of government forces deployed to the Warada in search of OLA combatants. An entire community cannot be labeled Shane. Intensifying crackdown on innocent civilians will only create a bigger rift between the government and the community, he said. The deputy president of Oromia region, Awalu Abdo, denied having any conversation with Karrayyuu elders and referred the question to Oromia Police Commission. The commissioner of Oromia Police Commission, Commissioner Ararsa Merdasa, declined to comment unless he is contacted in person. Contrary to his previous statement to Addis Standard, the administrator of East Shoa Zone, Ababu Wako, said that he had no information of the detained leaders. In an earlier interview, Ababu indicated that government forces were helping the community find its abducted members. When asked about the detainees in Mojo, he replied by saying, there were no missing people in the first place. I have no information on the matter. Yeah, sad. Addis Standard reached out to another resident of Fentalle Warada to confirm the prominent release of the leaders on Thursday. The resident, who wanted to remain anonymous for the security reasons, said the elders are still waiting for the release of the detained leaders. The resident placed the number of detainees at 23, including the Jilo Burrayu Hawas, whose life passed while in prison. According to him, they are detained in an informal detention center in Oromia Special Forces training camp. He added that the group of elders witnessed severe injuries in detainees, sustained as a result of physical assault. So look what they're doing. They just arrest them uh, in an official, uh, uh, just undisclosed, illegal prisons. This is common under Abiy Ahmed leadership. This is a tragedy, really. Imad Tune, Imad Tune, Imad Tune from the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission on his part told Addis Standard that the commission has remotely collected information about the incident, including of the detention of individuals. Imad said that the commission is preparing to send a team to collect factual information on the ground. He admitted that the contradicting reports have made it difficult for the Commission to put out a report. Addis Standard repeated attempt to speak to the head of Oromia Region Communication Bureau, Hailu Adunya, the administrator of Fentalle Warada of the East Shore Zone, Kelly Gada, Khalil Gada, as well as the commander of Oromia Special Force, Commissioner Dechasa Bitima, were to no avail, thanks to uh, Addis Standard on reporting this massacre. So you see how the government officials are, confusing citizens and denying knowing about the operation. You know, sending, you know, sending to indicating to the others, I don't know about, denying, and this is a tragedy, really. This is a tragedy. This act is conducted by the central government in coordination with the Oromia regional uh, officials, but they deny. But they deny. I hope one day they will face justice. Really, this is a very bad one, very bad system, very bad administration. I don't know how far they're gonna go. They are their hand is full of blood. Their hand is full of blood. These are criminals in Oromia region and at central government level, including the prime minister. He is the one, you know, uh, employing this shoot to kill policy, without any accountability, and telling the officials to adopt a denying system, a denying policy, deny, deny about accountability, and taking people, torturing people, and denying them a legal visit, and family visit, and legal counseling. All this is a common practice. What can we do, Ethiopians? What can we do, the international communities? Are we just stand by and keep watching the slaughter of Ethiopians? I, concerned citizens media, call on Ethiopians, Oromos everywhere to speak up strongly on the ways to end this massacre, mass killing, this uncontrolled system in Ethiopia, illegal system. These criminals are continuing. They have been doing this for the last 27 years under OPDO and the different party names. Now they are Prosperity Party, and they are doing the same or the worst crime now. So please, the international community, the United States, I know you are doing good in the northern part, but please, the European Union, Human Rights Commission, Amnesty International, please pay attention what is happening in Oromia too. Uncontrolled criminal activity happening in Oromia. These are the known, the unknowns are too many. Okay. Thank you, Addis Standard. Appreciate Addis Standard for covering those criminal acts of the government. Fana, Isat, OBN, those are part of the criminal gangs. They don't cover. They cover only victory victory of the government and try to hide everything else. Okay, this is from U.S. State Department press release on the situation, mass killing, detention, forced expansion in Western Tigray. The United States is following just from the beginning of this conflict and releasing many concerns, many press releases, and talking about it at international level. But so far, uh, not that much change is happening in Ethiopia. The bloodshed is still continue. So Abiy Ahmed is waiting for military intervention. I'm sure he will not stop. He will not stop by just warning or press statement or by sanctions. They don't care. Because Isaias Afwerki advised him, don't worry about these sanctions. I've been through this. You can sustain it. That's why he don't care about the international community. He don't care about U.S. Uh, concerns, warning, and other things. He is waiting for international community to act militarily. Then he will start killing Ethiopian citizens everywhere or detaining them illegally. That's the only thing he can stop. He will not stop by sanctions. He will not stop by warning and by your concerns. Let's read this U.S. statement press release. The United States is gravely concerned by unconfirmed new reports alleging mass detentions, killings, and forced expansions of ethnic Tigrayans in western Tigray by Amhara security forces. The United Nations reports that 1.2 million people have been forcibly displaced from western Tigray since the beginning of the conflict in November 2020. We call on Amhara leaders to renounce violence against civilians. We also reiterate our call on Eritrea to remove its forces from Ethiopia. We urge the Ethiopian authorities to investigate these reports to determine their veracity and to commit to inclusive, transparent process to hold responsible those accountable. We call on all armed actors in Ethiopia to renounce and end violence against civilians. We also reiterate our call for a cessation of hostilities, an immediate end to human rights abuses and violations, negotiations without preconditions, unhindered humanitarian access, and the start to an inclusive national dialogue. So that is from U.S. State Department. Very strong statement. But do the Eritrean government cares? Do Abiy Ahmed cares? Do the Amhara militia cares? No, no, no. They don't budge. They don't move an inch. This is good, but you need to work on the other strategy. The other strategy to force these people to stop targeting Tigrayans, not because they did a crime, but just by ethnicity. This is common. This is genocide. Genocide. This is genocide. They are abusing them everywhere in that country. There's the same way they are abusing Oromos everywhere. So the United States, United Nations, EU, you need to come up with something. Concerned citizens media keep demanding this thing. Abiy, Isaias, Amhara militia, or Fano will not budge with your warning. They don't care with your sanctions. They don't care about your concerns. You need to come up with something to stop these criminals and end the bloodshed in that country. Okay, this one is good for Ethiopian citizens. France donates 1,800,000 J J&J Johnson and Johnson COVID-19 vaccines uh, to Ethiopia via COVAX. I mean, via COVAX. This is good news. The French government donated 1,800,000 doses of Johnson and Johnson COVID-19 vaccines to Ethiopia that will be delivered on December 17 in Addis Ababa through COVAX mechanism. This donation comes in addition to the 843,600 AstraZeneca vaccine doses already donated by France in July, 391,200, and October 452,400 via COVAX in partnership with the African Union and the African Vaccine Acquisition Trust AVAT initiative for the second one. Committed to vaccine solidarity, France supports the important effort of the Ethiopian government to accelerate its national COVID-19 vaccination campaign. These donations are part of a global commitment from the French government, which made COVID-19 vaccine doses sharing a key priority of its global response in order to help increase vaccine cover on a global scale. To fight this pandemic that affects us all, solidarity remains our best weapon. France was the first country to share COVID-19 doses through COVAX last April and has since then committed to donate 120 million vaccines doses by mid 2022, among which 75.6 million doses have also been donated. These donations are made up of the same vaccines used by France in its own vaccination campaign: AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Johnson, and Moderna, and will enable to vaccinate at least the equivalent of the French population, 67 million people. Most of French donations are made through COVAX, a multilateral framework including key partners such as Gavi and UNICEF to ensure fair and effective access to safe vaccine. Thanks to Dispatch for this. So that's a good news. You know, it will not be used to kill, to advance Abiy Ahmed's killing machine. This is to help the people to fight against COVID-19, which is good. So we appreciate France for doing this. Also, the United States is doing much in the much similar way to the Ethiopian community, to other African countries. I follow their Twitter account, and they are also donating to African countries, including Ethiopia. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. So we have to appreciate that, but we must demand an end to this government, this bloodshed causing government. This is uncontrolled, illegal, and which doesn't follow any domestic or international law. I never seen a government like this. I hope it will be a short time to live. So very bad, very bad, very bad. Okay, this is about Sudan's peaceful revolution. This is also from U.S. State Department. Commemorating the Sudanese people's peaceful revolution. 3 years ago, Sudan's citizens united to determine an end to repression and the start of a democratic future. Sudanese from all walks of life, especially Sudanese women and the youth, showed great courage in taking to the street. Some paid with their lives. Their, their bravery and sacrifice will forever remain an inspiration to all those seeking democracy. Since the unconstitutional military takeover on October 25, hundreds of thousands of Sudanese have again taken to the street to demand respect for their basic human rights and to voice their enduring aspiration for a democratic Sudan. The United States stands in solidarity with their calls for a civilian led transition, which is the only pathway to a stable, just, prosperous, and peaceful Sudan. We urge Sudan's political and military leaders to respond to these calls by putting the interest of the country above their own and by recommitting to their spirit of the 2019 constitutional declaration through democratic action. Transitional institutions need to be strengthened under civilian authority, and the state of emergency should be lifted. All political detainees held since October 25 should be freed, and the freedom of assembly and peaceful protest must be guaranteed. Those responsible for the use of excessive force against civilians should be held accountable. The United States will continue to stand with the Sudanese people as they strive for freedom, peace, and justice. So that is very encouraging, very strong statement on Sudanese commemorating their peaceful revolution. So, they, I'm encouraged by those Sudanese, you know, protesters, coming out against the military coup. What is happening in Ethiopia? Where are Ethiopians? What happened? Nobody's saying anything, especially the one back home. Nothing. Life is expensive. Inflation is high. The country is isolated. And everything is upside down. But the people are still, uh, you know, not reacting. Maybe they are waiting for some kind of the right moment. I don't know. The life is miserable. Life is expensive, very expensive. Unemployment is very high, and the country is going down, going down. But Sudanese, they didn't even reach that level, but they came out, demanded justice for their right. You know, they acted strongly, courageously against the military coup. So Ethiopians, we are missing something. We are just to keep witnessing the atrocities happening everywhere. We are allowing these Prosperity Party officials to play with Ethiopian blood, with the bloodshed, and they are uh, spending the country's resources for this wrong, very wrong policy. So, thank you. That's the reading part. And let's share a couple of videos and end today's presentation. Thank you.
I'm Ray Chan, Vice President of Technology for the San Diego Padres, and ClickUp
is advertisement.
how I keep my team more productive. Whether it's our concession stands, the coach.
There we go.
The UN Human Rights Council voted on Friday to establish an independent investigation into abuses in the Ethiopian conflict. It comes after a senior UN official said there had been violations on all sides and mass arrests under a government crackdown. Ethiopia said it was extremely disappointed by the move and vowed not to cooperate, describing the mechanism as politically motivated. The resolution, brought by the European Union and backed by Western states, passed despite objections from Ethiopia. Nada al-Nashif is the UN Deputy High Commissioner for Human Rights.
While some of those arrested over the past 6 weeks have been released, we estimate that between 5,000 and 7,000 remain detained, including 9 UN staff members. Many are detained incommunicado or in unknown locations. This is tantamount to enforced disappearance and a matter of very grave concern. Access by independent monitors has been a major challenge. Reportedly, many have been subjected to inhuman and degrading treatment and extreme overcrowding, in addition to their prolonged detention without charge, access to lawyers, or any other form of due process.
Ethiopia dismissed accusations of abuses and said it had already cooperated in investigations into the year-old war between the federal government and rebellious forces, including fighters loyal to the Tigray People's Liberation Front. There was no immediate comment from the TPLF on Friday. The resolution establishes a 3-member panel of experts for 1 year to collect evidence and identify those responsible for violations with a view to future prosecutions.
Protests on the 11th anniversary of the start of the Tunisian revolution that led to the end of the authoritarian rule of President Zine Abidine Ben Ali. On the 17th December 2010, Mohamed Bouazizi set himself on fire in the city of Sidi Bouzid in southern Tunisia in protest at police stopping him from selling on the street. His death started a popular revolt that spread across the country, with millions of Tunisians demanding the resignation of the president and starting the process of transition to democratic rule. Events in Tunisia ignited the Arab Spring Revolution and similar anti-government uprisings in the Middle East countries, including Egypt and Libya. 11 years on, and these Tunisians demonstrated against what they say is the ongoing coup by President Kais Saied that began in July when he froze parliament and sacked the government. Earlier this week, President Saied, who is ruling by decree, announced a referendum on the new constitution to be held next July. But protesters who condemn the president's plans want to return to the 2014 constitution and to have a functioning parliament again. They're demanding new elections and a return to democracy that was so hard-won 11 years ago.
The only thing that was clear in the speech was the announcement of elections on December 17th, 2022. But on which basis? You vowed to protect the constitution, and now you say elections would take place in 2022. Where is the constitution? Where is the election law?
Police prevented anti-coup demonstrators from reaching the main avenue in the capital of Tunis, which saw the climax of the popular uprising that ended the dictatorship in Tunisia in 2011. Tunisia's journey as an emerging democracy has been a rocky one. The economic problems that caused the revolution 11 years ago remain. And since then, the country has had to overcome many catastrophes, such as the terrorist attacks in 2015. However, more and more Tunisians are prepared to fight for their democracy despite all these hardships. Protesters today said that they will stay on the avenue until what they call Kais Saied's coup d'etat comes to an end.
Okay. So we are missing such courageous protesters in Ethiopia. We are missing, so many thousands and thousands of Ethiopians, especially Oromos and the Tigrayans and some others, are in official prison cells and unofficial prison cells, suffering under Abiy Ahmed. And our political leaders, Johar, Muhammad Baqqala Garba, Hamza Borana, Abdi Raggasa, Colonel Gammachu Ayana, the list continues. They are still suffering. They are deadened, have a right for legal system, they just put them in jail, for an extended period of time. And the killing continues, the killing of the Karrayyuu's leaders, the killing of all these the teenagers, lawyer, Hachalu Hundessa. The issue continues. The issue continues. But yeah, and I don't know what is missing. Why we don't have that courage. Our people are dying. What happened to the people back home? You know, I know the security force is there, but they cannot control you. They control the whole nation if you come out and demonstrate against it. I don't think so. This is the right time to ask, to demand, justice for your political leaders, justice for those who killed, by security forces. Your silence is giving power for these criminal elements, who just change their names from old names into prosperity, and they are keep doing their dirty activities, and abusing the system, abusing the country's economy, taking the country out of the global stage. So what happened to Ethiopians? Ethiopians, please ask yourself, especially those back home in Adama, Addis Ababa, Awasa, everywhere. I don't know why this silence. End your silence like Tunisians. End your silence like Sudanese. Demand your right to be respected. So it's very sad, very disappointing. Ethiopians suffering under prosperity party, and not coming out strongly and freed their leaders. The leaders suffering in prison. They are expecting mercy from prosperity party officials. These are merciless people. These are killers. These are criminals. So please, as I said, the diaspora community, they are doing good. They are doing good. But those back home, you are the one deciding the fate of this prosperity party. Don't just go to the bloodshed. Fight against it. Protest against it. It's your right. It is your right. It is your right. So I just encourage you. I'm very disappointed by the silence, and the international community also. They should do more to end the bloodshed, to end the atrocity, human suffering in Ethiopia. And Abiy Ahmed and his supporters are not fighting against TDF or OLA. They are fighting against the United States. They are fighting against the Western nations. Clearly, you can see it through their no more protest. You can see it through their speeches, those Prosperity Party officials' speeches, and through their media propaganda. So this is, they are trashing the United States. They are fighting the United States for speaking up, for telling them to have inclusive dialogue in that country. They are, claiming Pan-Africanism against the United States. So please, the international community, I know which is a good one, passing this resolution and to have independent investigation. I hope you're going to do something when Ethiopia refuse to cooperate. Now they already said they don't want to cooperate. They have something to hide. They want to hide. They don't want to be accounted for the crimes, the genocide happened in that country. Then, by the time they refuse, I hope you will do something. So, thank you again, listeners. I will be back with other news and updates. Please share, subscribe, like, and comment on my video. So long, everyone.